Joel Tator has produced and directed close to 9,000 television programs, both local and national. He worked with Tom Snyder in the early years at KTLA and later produced and directed The Tomorrow Show on NBC. He authored a book titled Los Angeles Television, all about those early pioneers of LA TV. For his outstanding work, Joel has received 25 Emmy Awards. Besides collecting Emmys, Joel's also collected every single TV guide ever published and over 50,000 radio and TV audience show tickets. Joel recently welcomed me into his home so that you and I can see for ourselves what he's got.
This is my den, which I don't use as a den. I use to store all of my TV guides. I have every issue of TV Guide, starting with issue number 1, which I'll show you. Last week's issue is right there.
They still publish it?
Yeah.
Where is it, Joel?
Right there. That's last week's issue.
Oh my gosh.
And they're all in order.
Can I touch it, or is it
No, that's fine.
I mean, I know it's a relic from last week. Are they? Wow. So they got all the cable channels in there now.
It's a terrible magazine.
How many are there then total, do you think you have?
It tells you. It shows you because it says issue number, I think they're up to 3,200. Issue number 3,766.
And where do you see that?
Right here. So they keep track.
Wow.
But see, what they do is, to save paper, these are triple issues. These are 3-week issues.
Okay. Oh, they put...
So instead of calling this one issue, they call it 3 issues.
Right. It's not a weekly anymore.
No, it's a
three. Yeah.
Is. But anyway, it's a piece of shit, and the only reason that I keep getting it is because the numbering system is the same. If they had started the new numbering system, I would have given it up. But because I have to keep it because of all of these issue numbers that are there.
They're doing that on purpose because of you.
Exactly. Well, now with streaming, they do cover streaming.
Okay.
They cover cable. They have a lot of listings, but only prime time.
Right.
Nothing for daytime, and worse, nothing for local. Local TV, it was important in this market and in many bigger markets. Every one of the issues here have local listings.
Yeah.
But when new management took over, they said no more local listings. So they don't do that anymore. You know who owned TV Guide in these days? Annenberg, the Annenberg.
Oh, is that right?
And they sold it for billions of dollars.
Wow.
And the new owners said, let's trim down. Now, as you picture all of this, picture when the earthquake hit, everything came out of there and fell on the floor. Everything you see was on the floor.
No.
Yeah.
Really? How did you get it back in order?
It took 6 months to put it back in order because, they fell out of order. They didn't fall in order.
Were they damaged much?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here is issue number 1.
Let's see. Oh.
And that is Little Desi Arnaz.
Oh, yeah.
This is from April 3rd, 1953.
And that was the first
issue. National issue.
How much did it cost?
15 cents.
What did it cost now?
$6. Before they had a national edition, they had a local edition.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the oldest local edition I have. June 14th, 1948.
What were the big shows back then?
Ed Sullivan.
Right.
Your Show of Shows, Jackie Gleason.
Wow.
Now, this is interesting. The NBC News, it's called Nightly News now.
Right.
In those days, it was sponsored, and they called it the Camel News Theater. The Camel Newsroom.
Oh, after the cigarette, right?
Sponsored by Camel Cigarettes, yeah. So this was the local version.
Right.
The first national version was this. And I have everyone from the first one on.
Are these all insured?
No.
They're not?
No.
Oh. What do you think the collection of TV guides is worth?
I have no idea. I'd never sell them, but I have no idea what they're worth.
Do you ever have researchers wanting to buy?
No. Well, people call me and say, would you look on June 19th, 1957 and see if such and such ran? And because they're in order. 1968, 1969, whatever.
Can I ask you do you plan to put them in a museum? Or this is the museum?
Listen, when I'm gone, whatever will be done will be done. I have nothing in my will about them.
You're not going to worry about them?
No, I'm not going to worry about it.
Then do you still now and then come in and look through them? Or?
No, unless I'm looking for something particular that I need to find.
Right.
Otherwise, I don't.
Is that first issue your favorite?
Well, no, it's certainly the most valuable because it was number one.
Do you know what they sold for?
I think I think the biggest seller was the Superman issue. I think it went for $700. It's here somewhere. I don't. For people who collect, obviously, issue number one has some significance.
Well, what made you start to collect? How'd you happen to get into this?
When I went to the market, there was a sign, new magazine, TV guide, and I got it and I looked at it and I thought that was interesting because there were a lot of shows that I was interested in seeing.
Right.
And then when I was done with it, I threw it in the closet. And then next week I threw it in the closet. And then the week after that, and pretty soon I said I better get these in order.
Oh,
I had no idea of keeping them. Wow. I had no idea that it would last. I mean, this is 1953.
That's just
today.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't think about that.
Wow, that is.
But anyway,
else.
It is the history of television.
It really is. So now, but people know about you, but not many people know. They know you as the director and the news and all that, producer, director.
I'm a collector. I collect all kinds of things. You'll see my tickets. I collect pins. I have Olympic pins. I'm just a collector.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I have no idea what they're worth. I would never sell them, so it's not of no interest to me.
What's your favorite, the tickets or the TV guides?
Oh, I think that I saw so many of the shows that I have tickets for. They each bring back memories.
Oh.
So I think the tickets are more interesting,
more sentimental.
To me. Yeah, than just a magazine.
Right. Well, it's a fantastic collection.
Well, thank you.
I can't believe it. Right. Oh, look at this. Can I show this?
Yes.
Oh.
That's when Tom was at KTLA. He did a show called Snyder Reports Weather and Sport. And this was the closing credit on that show.
Oh, I love that.
We were both in our 20s. And he had just come from Atlanta. And I was 20. When I met him, I was 23.
Amazing.
And he was 5 years older, so he was 28. Well, I started in 1960 at KTLA, and he left in 65. So 2 years.
Oh, I love that picture.
Yeah, I do too. That's why I keep it here.
Now, let me just ask you one thing.
Yes?
What does your family think of all this? When they say, Joe's collecting,
No, here's exactly what they think. When are you downsizing? Because they know, especially my niece and nephew, they know when I pass and I go to Video Valhalla, they're going to have to take care of all this stuff. So they do it on a regular basis. Have you downsized yet? Of course, I haven't downsized it because I can't give any of this away.
Gotcha.
I don't want to give any of it. This is the machine that did the credits on the Tomorrow Show.
Oh, Joe.
It's called a Solari. It's like the thing at the airport.
Well, we should tell people you were the producer and director of the Tomorrow Show from day one, right?
No. I was the director from day one.
Director from day
and
one.
And from 6 months in, I became the producer and director.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is cool. So how did this work?
Well, it was electronic, and you would press a button, and the next
it flips, right?
Yeah, it would flip.
Ah, okay.
There are some other names on there, but I'm afraid it'll...
No, don't do that.
Like I say, I'm a collector. I can't help it.
You collect vacuums too? I had a friend that did that.
No, I don't collect them. They all break, and I have to throw them away.
Now, what room are we in now? The museum.
This is the bedroom.
The bedroom, okay. And there's these colored boxes.
They are shoe boxes that are full of tickets to audience radio and television shows. And they're alphabetized, and... If I know this sounds boastful, but I know every ticket I have.
How many tickets do you?
Over 50,000.
So, Joe, what was the first ticket you got?
Well, let me tell you how this started, and then that answers the question. When I was 15, I was in high school, and every Friday I would go down to Hollywood, take the bus, usually to see a movie. Because we didn't have first-run theaters here in the Valley. If you want to see a first-run movie, you'd go down. And I was walking down the street, and there was an usher there, and he was handing out tickets. He said, "How would you like to see this show?" Well, I didn't want to see the show, but I took the ticket. Then I walked over to NBC and CBS and ABC, and they were all next to each other, within a block radius of each other. And I would pick up these tickets because they were free, and they had pretty colors. And I put them in my pocket, and on the way home, on the bus, I had 50 tickets. I threw them in the closet, and then the next week I went again. In the 50s, radio, big time radio, was still going. Comedy shows, variety shows, drama shows, and they all required a studio audience. And I'll show you the schedule, and you'll see how many there were. So, for nothing, the tickets are free.
Right.
If I wanted to see a show, I could see a show, although some shows had an age limit of 18, the saucy ones.
Right.
But between radio and television, in a day, I could pick up 75, 100 tickets. That's how it started. It started just ridiculous like that. And then I said, well, I'm going to go again next Friday. Now, let me show you what I'm talking about.
Yes.
About the number of shows.
Yes.
This is an audience schedule from CBS, 1950.
Okay.
Look at how many audience shows they had on Sunday, Monday,
Oh my God.
Tuesday, Wednesday. Some radio, some TV. Again, 1950. Jack Benny, Edgar Bergen, Red Skelton, George and Gracie, Gary Moore, Steve Allen, Lux Radio Theater. And every one of these had tickets. This is 1953. Television is coming along. We got Art Linkletter's House Party, The Bob Crosby Show, because it says TV. Mm-hmm. But the other shows were radio. If it didn't say TV, these were audience radio shows. And so, as a result, you had many, many shows that you could get tickets for.
You don't have Fibber McGee and Molly, do you?
Yes, I have a Fibber McGee. I'm glad you mentioned Fibber and Molly. Here's a Fibber McGee and Molly ticket. But listen, it was sponsored by the Reynolds Medal, and it's a metal ticket. Metal colored ticket.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, see? Reynolds Medals presents Fibber McGee and Molly.
Wow.
Now, the only bad thing about this, the NBC tickets did not have a year. It just had a date, but no year.
Well, you can figure that out.
Yeah, you can look at a calendar. This was about 54.
That's...
19, isn't it? Now, these are tickets from Milwaukee. WTMJ, Milwaukee Journal. Civic concert, open house. Mm-hmm. Now, before, you remember Welcome Back, Kotter?
Yes.
Well, before that, it was called Kotter. Our friends Reynolds Medals, Mr.
Right.
Peepers. Now, the Seinfeld show was called The Seinfeld Chronicles.
I do not remember that at all.
No, because it never made it to air. This is one of the first taping. Here's one you'd enjoy. Wrestling. Wilbur Snyder and the Great Bolo. You could go watch a wrestling match, but it was a network show. Look,
Right.
CBS Television Network.
Right.
A very rare ticket. The Elvis Comeback Special. Now, this is the first Martin and Lewis Colgate Comedy Hour. This was 1950. You remember Martin and Lewis?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes.
It came from the International Theater in New York, which is now gone. It eventually moved to Hollywood, but they started it in New York.
Now, how did you get... Because you were out here, right? When you were young.
Well, I've traded for some tickets.
Oh, you traded,
and I've
okay.
bought some tickets. Now, this is another interesting ticket. CBS Television invites you to the preview of the Television City formal dedication show. When they opened Television City, they had a special. Mm-hmm. This is 1952.
Wow.
And they printed tickets for it. This is another historic ticket. Saturday Night Live, show number 1, George Carlin.
Wow. And did you trade for this, or did you...
No. I actually was working in New York at the time.
Oh, on the Tomorrow Show?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I just went down and got it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I said to the page, do you have an extra ticket? He said, yeah, thank you.
And over here we have NBC.
This was An Evening with Fred Astaire, which won like 12 Emmys.
The NBC Chimes.
The Chimes.
Nobody has those anymore.
They used to call it Color City. They don't do that anymore. But anyway, this was the special Evening with Fred Astaire. The Riddlers, a new game show with David Letterman. I don't think it ever aired. Now, this is before videotape.
Right.
So if they wanted to do a show during the day, they had to do it early in the morning. So it says on the ticket, it says, there's one in every family. Coffee and donuts will be served from 7:30 to 8.
What show is this?
There's one in every family.
Oh, that's the name of the show.
Yeah, that's
okay.
the name of the show. But see, it was at 8 o'clock in the morning. And in order to get people, so that it would air in New York at 11. See, because of the time
because of the
change.
time
There was no
change.
videotape.
Right.
So to get them to come in, they give you donuts. This is the first annual Soul Train Awards. At 1987 at Santa Monica Civic.
Oh, I love that.
This was the abortive Jerry Lewis live show. It only lasted 13 weeks. And it was a terrible show, and it didn't last very long. Now, this is another historic premier intercontinental television program. The Colgate Comedy Hour. This is the first live show to come from the West Coast that played in the East Coast. Wow. The Colgate Comedy Hour with Eddie Cantor, the premier transcontinental television program.
Unbelievable.
And, of course, everyone's favorite, Howdy Doody. They came from New York, but they did this one in Burbank. This is Julian Carroll at Lincoln Center. George Burns' 100th birthday party. The Ringo Starr special. Didn't know he had one.
He did, and I remember him sitting alone on a seat when I was a page, waiting for like a car to pick him up or something.
Oh, okay. This is another historic. This is an interesting ticket. The Admiral Broadway Review was the predecessor to Your Show of Shows, which was the Sid Caesar, Imogene Coca, Mel Brooks show. Now, here's the show. It only lasted one season. Why? The show was so popular that Admiral sold out all their TVs, and so they had to drop sponsorship because they couldn't make the TVs fast enough. This is an interesting one. Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy with their guest, Ronald Reagan.
Oh, what year was that? Does it say on there? They don't say the year.
53.
Oh, 53,
Yeah.
okay.
Wheel of Fortune, guess who was the host?
Well, I remember Chuck Woolery.
Ed Burns.
No.
Ed Cookie Burns.
Cookie Burns?
Yeah, well, look what it says.
Well, did that ever air?
It may have been a pilot, I don't know.
Unbelievable.
Price is Right, of course.
Right.
The original Price is Right, Bill Cullen. This is the first late show with David Letterman, 1993. This is the very first All in the Family. And I must tell you, I was in the audience.
You were for that?
And I was with a friend, and I turned to the friend and I said, this will never air. Because it was, all the words that you can't use on television. Right. And this, of course, Jackpot Bowling with Milton Berle.
I've never even heard of that one.
Yeah, well, yeah. This is a extra large ticket. Don't ask me why. A midnight show. You are cordially invited to a midnight taping of Dolly, starring Dolly Parton. Don't ask me why she wanted to do it at midnight. Now, the hardest ticket to ever get. Tickets to the Bozo Show in Chicago. When couples conceived a child, they wrote in for tickets. That's how hard the tickets were to get. Really? When their child was of age, they could take it to Bozo.
So they'd have to wait.
Yes, but that's how popular Bozo was. Now, this is my oldest ticket.
Oh, let's see.
The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, 1930. This is Times Square Studio. This is the New Amsterdam Theater, which they called the Times Square Studio. Now, this was sad. The Midnight Special.
Yes.
Your host, Jim Croce. Yeah. He was killed on the way to the taping. This never happened. The Dean Martin Show, but it was Mae West was the guest. I think it's the only thing Mae West ever did on television. This is one of Steve Allen's earliest shows from 1947. It's Smile Time.
Never even heard of these.
No. And this was the big show, Your Show of Shows, the first big variety show. And another rare ticket, The Honeymooners, Jackie Gleason.
Wow. What's the top one?
Just Men. It's the only show that a woman ever hosted.
Betty White's show,
right. Colgate Comedy Hour came from the Hollywood Bowl. Thank God it didn't rain. But it was outdoors. The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, final week.
And you have a ticket.
When he gave it up to Conan.
Yes.
This is the first Conan Tonight Show.
It's fantastic you have all these.
Well, I made an effort to get it. Now, this is an interesting ticket. They weren't sure of the name of the show. It says CBS Radio Network presents The Education of Henry Blake, which is crossed out, and they put The Re-Education of Cecil Binks. This was a radio show. How do I know? Because it's at Radio Studio.
Neat. That is so neat.
Here are all the hosts of The Tonight Show. Steve Allen, Jack Parr, Johnny Carson. This was called Buy American Radio Broadcast with Al Pierce and his happy-go-lucky gang. That's all I know. 1933.
Jeez.
Taped or recorded at Warner Brothers, which is now KTLA, Sunset and Bronson.
Yeah. Wow.
This was the late lamented Chevy Chase show. Remember the talk show that didn't last?
Yeah.
This was one of the first week, and then it died. Now you know that Studio 8H in New York is the big studio.
Yes.
It's the big studio because it was built for Arturo Toscanini and the NBC Symphony, and here it is.
And now Saturday Night is.
Yeah, right. This is your personal card of admission to the NBC Symphony. Groucho Marx, You Bet Your Life. That was a big quiz show.
With George Fenneman, right?
George Fenneman was the announcer. Mm-hmm. This is the last Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Mm-hmm. And this is the first Tonight Show with Jay Leno. It wasn't easy to get these.
That's special, yeah.
The Milton Berle Show with Elvis Presley.
That is it.
And Sheena, Queen of the Jungle.
Oh, that is great.
Now, Television City opened on October 3rd, 1952. The first show was My Friend Irma. CBS invites you to the first origination from Television City, the world's first plant designed and built exclusively for television. Now, NBC wanted to premiere their Burbank studios before Television City. So when they found out that they were going on the 3rd, the best they could do was the next day, the 4th. So this was the first show to come from Burbank.
Fantastic.
The All-Star Review. This is from 1951, the first transcontinental television show. It came from Columbia Square. It was I showed you the one with Colgate Comedy Hour,
yes,
which was sponsored. This was a public affairs show, so actually this was first, but it doesn't count because it wasn't sponsored.
Gotcha.
Okay. This is the first West Coast demonstration of color TV. 1953, November 3rd.
Wow. Where'd
From
you
Burbank.
get that one? Do you remember where?
Yes, when I left NBC, I went down to the lady who handles the tickets, and I said, I'm leaving. It's been a pleasure working here. Do you have any old tickets? And she gave me an envelope full of tickets.
Oh, my goodness.
And this was in there. Here's an original, as I say, The Honeymooners, with Jackie Gleason.
In New York.
Yeah. This was the very first network program to come from Hollywood. The world premiere of the Ed Wynn Show. It was a half-hour comedy show, and they hadn't built the cable to the east, so the people in the east saw it on a kinescope a week later. But those of us on the West Coast could see it live.
Beautiful.
And that's why it's gold, I think, because it was a premiere. I like this. This was called It's the Berries. And, of course, they made berries. This was a radio show.
Was it a cooking show? Or?
No, I think it was a sitcom.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty.
This is the final episode of The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Commemorative ticket.
Wow.
There were 1,200 seats, and I got number 536.
Jeez.
Final episode. This is the Saturday Night Live 25th anniversary special. Now they're about to do their 50th.
Right.
Entertainment 1955 on the occasion of the dedication of NBC Color City. You know Meet the Press, right?
Yes,
okay.
Of course.
Meet the Press did one audience show. Special convention program. Guests, Senators Johnson, Kennedy, and Symington.
That's a great...
They had a debate on Meet the Press.
Were you there for that?
No, but I got the ticket from the lady. This is the 75th anniversary of NBC, May of 2002. This was Tom's ticket. He was invited.
Oh.
And he knew I collected, so he gave me the ticket. The Dick Van Dyke Show, the second one, not the first one, which was done in Carefree, Arizona. Don't ask me why. And the Osmond Show was done in Provo, Utah.
Mm-hmm.
David O. Selznick's Lights Diamond Jubilee Show was seen on all three networks. They bought time to celebrate the Lights Diamond Jubilee Show. Did you ever hear of George Gobel?
Yes, of course. Yes.
This was his pilot. NBC presents the George Gobel Show, introducing NBC's newest comedy sensation, George Gobel.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. This is now the Avalon Theater on Vine Street.
Okay.
I mean, it was an NBC deal. Academy Award ticket, which is not really a television show, but
What year was that? Yeah.
This was 1960. The Ed Sullivan Show, when he came to Television City.
Yeah.
See, they did it in the afternoon because of the 3-hour time difference. The Mike Douglas Show came from Cleveland, and then it moved to Philadelphia. But before that, it was in Cleveland. The Waverly Wonders with Joe Namath. The Vince Scully Show, which was a talk show. It lasted one season. Baffle with Dick Enberg. This is from 1944. The Frank Sinatra program presented by Vims. Nobody knew who Frank Sinatra was in 1944.
What was Vims?
It's a vitamin.
Oh.
The staff of the Tomorrow Show knew that I collect tickets. And unbeknownst to me, they collected a bunch of tickets and made this plaque.
Wow.
Including when we were at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville. We did the show there. And this was the first time we did the show in New York. That's this one. And
You had an audience then?
for when we moved to New York, yeah, just a
few shows.
One time only.
So, Joel, after all these years, are you still collecting tickets?
Well, they now want only young people in studio audiences, and so they devised this reservation system where you have to call in or text in, and they find out how old you are. And if you're not a certain age, you don't get any tickets. So they don't use tickets anymore. They use reservations. If you watch Price is Right or any of the shows that have audiences, only young people.
Wow.
You know, they want the right demographic. So the answer is that nobody gives out tickets anymore.
Okay. Is there any ticket that you'd like that you haven't gotten yet?
Yes, there's one that I've been trying to find, and it doesn't exist. I've tried everything. In 1953, the Ford Motor Company celebrated their 50th anniversary with a 2-hour special that aired on NBC and CBS simultaneously. It had every star imaginable on there, and it really was a very well done show. It came from the Center Theater in New York, which is an NBC theater. I desperately wanted a ticket to that. I have never found one.
Well, maybe now someone will see this.
I hope so. If you're watching, Mr. Ford, please send it to me.
TV guides and TV tickets aren't the only thing that Joel collects. He's actually acquired full-size vintage television cameras. I had to ask him about it.
Well, when I started directing, we were in black and white, of course.
Right.
And a couple of years into that, we went to color. And the only color cameras that they had in those days was this big mother here. And I fell in love with it. It looks like, to me, a 747. You know, the design, but the idea that it was the first color camera just intrigued me. Many, many years later, I thought, I wonder if, because they stopped using them, obviously, got newer cameras. Right. I wonder if there's a camera around that I could buy. So I put out the word, and somebody wrote me and said, yes, we have a TK40, which is the description of that camera. It's a TK40. $2,000. I said, I'm in.
Oh.
So they delivered it. Now, in order to get it up the elevator, of course, they had to take it apart because you can see it's too big. The viewfinder on top comes off, and of course the tripod comes off. So they finally got up there, and then they reconstructed it. About a week after that came in, I got another call from somebody who said, I heard you were looking for a TK41. I didn't want to tell them I had it, but I wanted to know how much they wanted for it. And I said, how much? They said, just come get it. We don't want it anymore.
Wow.
And that was that one.
And that was for free.
Free. So how could I say no? How could I say no? Isn't
No,
that a
you
beautiful
couldn't say no.
piece of machinery?
That's beautiful, actually.
Now, this camera is one of 3 that were the first color cameras into Television City. So there's a little history here.
Right.
CBS, of course, hated NBC because Paley and Sarnoff were bitter enemies. So when these were, but CBS needed to have a color camera that was made by RCA because they were the only one who made it. But you see that logo on the bottom that said RCA?
Yes, yes.
Paley made them take it off when they moved it into Television City.
Right.
Now you see, there's Judy Garland down there standing in
Yes.
front of. That's this camera.
That is this actual camera.
Yeah. Well, one of 3. I'm not
Right,
sure it was
right.
the camera, but she did a color show there, and this was the camera that they had in Television City, the color camera. When CBS got rid of it, they put the RCA logo back on, and that's how it wound up at a station in the Midwest is where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time they were the only ones that made color cameras, RCA.
Yeah, RCA was NBC.
Yeah,
you know, so-
exactly.
yeah.
Now, of course, nobody uses RCA cameras anymore. Everyone uses Sony and so forth. But in those days, RCA made all the color cameras.
So the cameras now are all foreign.
Yeah, you're
Foreign
right.
made.
Absolutely.
Wow.
They don't make them here anymore.
Now, Joe, I just want to ask you this.
Yeah.
What did your parents think of all this collecting when you were younger? And did
You know what?
did they think it was odd, or did they?
No, they were very understanding. Like I said, the tickets were free.
Right.
The camera I bought long after I
Right.
moved out of the house, so they didn't know about that. I mean, that I paid $2,000 for it. No, I think they just indulged my whatever my ridiculous tastes were.
But at one point, did you think it turned into from hobby to compulsion or obsession?
No. It was just I enjoyed my work so much that I wanted parts of it to be part of where I lived.
God, yeah.
Because I enjoyed it, and if you think about it, every shot that is on every show and every movie comes through a camera.
Right.
Cameras they're very important.
Right.
And so that's why I wanted to have cameras here, because without the cameras, there's no TV, there's no movies, there's nothing.
Joe, I got to thank you for allowing me to come into your house, and what I call it's really a museum of history, of television history, certainly, and even more than that. We didn't even talk about all these airplanes, but one day we'll come back and we'll talk about why all these airplanes are here.
Did I mention there's an admission charge?
Oh, no, I didn't know
We'll
that.
talk about it.
Okay, all right, thanks. Okay. Here, I'll do it like you would direct the show, Joe. You hold it up and I'll go up like, yeah. We'll start with that and then we'll come down.
Thank
There
you for being with us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.